All right, now one episode ends, another begins. We're just going to keep on rolling here. We're getting some deserters. We're going to have to spread some troops around. Let's start a new episode right here. Welcome back again, friends, to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related. Welcome back to our Battanian campaign. This is an exploration of the new version of Bannerlord 1.3. We're still in beta, and I'm still trying not to use the RTS mod because it's crashing regularly. We've got this cool looking clan now that we've just made. We've got a pretty solid army, but we do have some grubby troops at the bottom here. We've got some raggedy wood runners and stuff like that. 433 troops. And the previous episode, we took both of those cities, Dunglanis and Carbantheth. Now it's time to head there. We're reinforced from Varcheg. The loyalty here at Revel is a problem. I keep on trying to make adjustments, but we're going to have to do some policies here. Let's do, where's this one? First, let's make our army bigger. Oops, that's not it. This is, to me, one of the earliest policies you want to do, and we'll talk more about policies in this episode and the future. There are some policies to me that are automatic. This is one of them, right? Your cities are going to have loyalty issues early on. That one adds 2. You lose a little bit of funds, right? You're going to have to deal with that. Our financial situation is improving as we smash through the enemy and we acquire cities with taxpayers, right? Everybody, that's really why there were wars all those years in Europe. They just wanted to be able to charge those people taxes, whether it was Alsace or all the different cities throughout Europe that these rulers would fight over. This such and such would take such and so. That's why at the end of battle, at the end of a campaign, when they would do peace treaties, they would essentially negotiate and say, hey, we'll give you peace, but we also want control over this region and that part and tax these peasants and stuff like that. It's basically, it's Bannerlord, right? Trading citizens to exploit. All right, still ripping off villages here, every single one of them. Give us your sons, right? We're going to sort of strategically hit as many of these as we can. At the same time, we're in a hurry, right? Because this city may start getting under siege. We should make it now. We're close enough. Essentially, there's the pre-siege setup. And we with our satellite link here to the city, we can see they're not under siege yet. We should still make it now. So it's just across this valley. Now, some guys are probably saying, yeah, get inside and defend it. I'm probably not going to. Not against, it looks like it's 700, 800, 900, 800 something. And they are starting to siege now, 819. I just think we can fight that in the open. It'll also be a complete massacre, blowout, and siege defense. Oh, shit, it's falling fast. 7. Oh, shit. 109. This is faster than I remember. This might be a change with 1.3. It might be because the city's a level 1 walls, but we're not going to be able to save it, so I botched this pretty good. Running up to Varcheg is going to cost us the city here. Now, I have no reinforcements to gain locally. And it's a pretty strong Valandian force, but they have some crossbow, but not a huge amount. You know what? This is actually better. This will show again the ultimate power of the Battanian kingdom. You know what? This is going to be better than fighting him in the open. So if we fought this Valandian force in the open, it'd be hard, right? They have 600-700 troops when they healed up. They might have 700 troops. We've got them right where we want them, inside the city. They don't have any cavalry inside the city. They're going to be off their horses. Not that cavalry would help them anyways. But they're going to get pounded in the city here because of the layout of the city. This city is very hard to defend. I think we mentioned that already. And this is going to be interesting here because we're outnumbered 2-1. Okay, I thought they might sally out. They have so many troops I thought they might sally out. Okay, so another one of these mining things here. I like this, right? I think we're going to take advantage of this because if we can put a hole in the wall, breach 1 siege wall. So there's a chance that we put a hole in the wall. I like this, right? You can basically take a chance here. We could dig a hole and dig a tunnel. That was the thing, right? They have sappers that would dig underneath walls and the walls would fucking collapse. I think we'll try this 60% and we cross our fingers here. Okay, I guess the wall didn't. Okay, there it goes. The wall is breached. So both walls are breached. Wow, that's OP to say the least. It'd take you maybe a week of game time at least to pound the city down with siege. but we'll take it, right? That's a nice advantage for us. We didn't really need it. We were going to obliterate them anyways. But as long as they don't have a huge amount of very tough crossbow and archers I didn't see, right? I didn't see 150 sharpshooters and stuff like that. This is going to be... I think this is going to be hilarious. I think we're going to basically be able to melt them on the hill, and if they charge, we'll just kite. They're basically fucked here no matter what. They don't have cavalry. They can't chase us down. It's kind of like facing 800 infantry in an open field battle. Of course, I guess 600 infantry and 200 crossbow. They have some crossbow, but not very much, and we certainly have the ranged advantage. So I'm also going to build a siege weapon or two, right? That's a good way to level your siege weapons. I like to reserve at least the first ones, usually the second one or third one. And I would like to destroy some of their siege weapons here. They do have fire catapult. We'll see. At least they're not targeting the walls, right? There's a nice advantage of the walls being down, as our siege weapons have no choice but to attack their siege, and it's working. We throttled their siege weapons a lot of times, and it's a bad process. In a siege defense, your enemy's siege weapons will target the walls while they're being pounded. While they're being pounded by enemy counter siege, which is highly suboptimal. It should be coded into the game that they target whatever's attacking them first before they try to attack. It'd be like if they just endlessly chased a character while you cut them down from behind on the battlefield, which I guess sometimes they do that. All right, so I think with a little bit more light here, this is going to work. We may have to destroy that catapult. I want to have a couple of these catapults for additional assault on the enemy, and we have it. A little bit more daylight here. And this is going to be fun. It may not work out quite like I think, but I'm picturing the battlefield here and thinking about all the different variables. And I think you're about to witness an almost cruel and unusual massacre of this pathetic Valandian force. And what's nice is it's one more piece of evidence that the Battanians probably have the best kingdom when it comes to intentional playing. In other words, not using F1, F3. If you want to F1, F3, play the Khazate. Right? The horse archers do pretty well charging. If you want to use tactics, I think the Battanians, maybe the Asurai, are unbelievably dominating kingdoms. And hopefully we can continue to show that here. We'll talk more about Siege Assault, right? We're going to do some more elaborate Siege Assaults for this campaign. I wish there was more light. However, the new improved lighting, it is better. It is better at night, like you can see pretty well. So we'll see how this works here. Again, our second division is going to be kind of our linchpin division, right? That's going to be our best skirmishers. That way I know when that second division is near, they have lots of javelins, right? Most of your high-end Battanians have 2 bags of javelins. So they're throwing javelins until the enemy's basically dead, right? 10 javelins is an unbelievably OP item. However, I'll say, right, the wildling gets absolutely clowned on, like on Reddit and places like that. The Battanians' infantry sucks. I'd say, well, I won't say your tactics suck, dude, but if you're using wildlings, in a different way, it's not their fault, right? You're using, it's operator error. It's unbelievably powerful when you use them well. All right, so we do have some low-level skirmishers here. We'll bring them up sort of behind the higher-level skirmishers. We want our young wolf here, our young wolves, to throw some javelins and get some upgrades, but our vanguard in this difficult battle is going to be that second division. Now, we must have 100 Fiend champs total, right? Or at least Fiends and Fiend champions. High-end Battanian archers, I would say we have 100, and we're going to need it. They have a lot of sharpshooters. The fuckers are on the walls here, but that's temporary. These guys are going to get blown off the wall, something fierce here. I'm going to get a few shots here. Oh, shit. We still got to get better armor. I mean, I just took... How much? I don't know. I took a lot of damage. I have a good helmet, and it still smoked me. Of course, I was up close. Get shot in the face with a crossbow bolt. It may kill you even if you have a helmet on. All right, coming up in the shield wall here, and you notice I didn't bring my archers up initially. I want the shield wall to lead just like an open field battle, because that's kind of what this resembles. It just has, it's a very narrow battlefield, right? There's these openings, and I like that sound. That's our siege guys blasting the enemy. That's why I built those, so that while the enemy's held in place and we shoot at them and throw javelins and stuff like that, we can pound them with our siege weapons. In fact, trying to get Ioran here. King Ioran, we'll call him, since he's his own kingdom. He's pompously parading around. He's got, you know, he's wearing some velvet and gold, right? He's obeying sumptuary laws, and we're gonna get some siege exp here. The enemy could not be in a worse position. Here come our skirmishers, fire at will, right? Watch this assault. These poor bastards. All you can hear is guys screaming and falling to the ground. We can put this other division in front of them. Even our first division has skirmishers because we have so many skirmishers. And this is where I don't want to have throwing axe guys, Oathsworn and shit like that. They're not terrible. They're just nowhere near as good as a wildling. I'll take, let's see. I'll take 15 wildlings over 30 Oathsworn in a battle. That's how much better I think they are. Like if it was a choice, one of those troops are going to rebel unless you do this or do that, and you lose 30 Oathsworn, but you gain 15 wildlings sold. All right. They've nerfed this, but let's see what we can do here. I forgot he yells. Well, there's 6 points. That didn't take long. Our very first shot, and it might have got more than 6. And look at this guy. Bylorn Bloodaxe is gaining engineering skill. So we got a companion. It's purely luck, but he's over there right next to us, also firing away. And when you see him killing, that's both of us shooting, right? So the enemy's being completely torched, stood up on, and I got to watch for them charging. I've got kind of a couple divisions, a couple levers to pull. We've got that first division we can square, and we can kite with the second. But right now, there's no reason for us to do anything other than just sort of bait them into charging, bait them to our skirmishers, and then pull them back in a square. and stand hundreds of feet of the enemy, hundreds of feet away here and bellow. That might get old. If every single time you hit a guy with a siege weapon, your guy does his little taunt. Let's see if it happens again. Yeah, every time. And the guy next to him, like catapult's like, shut the f up already. I get it. You're killing guys at range with the catapult. What are you, getting aroused? Now the horse, I want that horse. He's stopped right there. I think what I'd like to do is pick that horse up, because once we push units, never mind. He doesn't wait. He's a pacifist horse. He's going to go eat grass instead of help his master. Byron Bloodaxe gains a level. He's over there just throttling the enemy. He's doing better than main character is here. I wonder if he has good engineering skill. But it's working, right? No horse. It's going to be a little bit harder to push our way in. Yay! And that's about as much as I need to subject you guys to, but a good way to power up your engineering, right? No danger whatsoever. Nothing's going to attack me there. I don't even know if their archers could reach me, or crossbow could reach me. Even if they could, they would get smoked off the walls. The enemy's defending here, and look at the death span. I love it. It's amazing. They are basically getting liquidated right where they stand. So it's the perfect castle or city for this. I didn't intend on this, but it's a nice little silver lining of losing this city to the Valandians. I think you could make an argument that was a good thing that happened, because we're immolating this force, we're gaining EXP, we're gaining upgrades left and right, and we're suffering very few losses. You can already see the power bar now actually favors us, or is close to even, in a battle where we were outnumbered, I think 2-1. We'll bring this square in here. We're finally going to make our press, push it into the side of the enemy here as we smoke a few of these guys. They're throwing rocks. They must have peasants, I guess, that are throwing rocks, or looters. And you can see the units on the wall. That guy got drilled right in front of us. That javelin to the head. I'm going to keep sort of kiting back and forth. Units don't seem to be able to push through. I mentioned this before, too. The AI defends the walls and the holes better than before. There's no question. I've had a real hard time basically shoving our way through cities. Now, they're vulnerable. These guys are kind of stuck like Winnie the Pooh here. We're shooting them in the back. You know, we can pound our way through still, but you can no longer easily just push squares into cities. So we're going to have to develop better strategies. Maybe we'll do a little bait and switch. But this is pretty solid defense, right? These Valandians are fighting tooth and nail. They're not going to win. You can see the death span. Our range advantage is so enormous here, and they're so vulnerable right there that it's really just a matter of time. I could probably take a break. Like if I had to use the bathroom, I'd just go right now. Go to the back of the formations. You'd come back and everybody in the city would be dead. or almost everybody, and then you could hit F3 and go make a sandwich. Oh shit, here's another wave. They won't let us in, so more props where it's due. This is an improvement. They're getting immolated, but say they had a bunch of archers here and a bunch of skirmishers. If this was Battania, for example, we might have lost this siege, but because they don't have a huge amount of ranged units, we've got all these ranged units, big advantage on them. We're going to be able to win this just through attrition. They're getting melted. But I can't get in. They won't let us in. They're doing a really exemplary job of holding this hole. I'm going to have to try the other hole. At least the other hole, there's already some troops that maybe have made a puncture there. You can see their little green and gold orbs bobbing up and down. Let's see if they've got a hole over here. No, look at that. The AI is defending here brilliantly. I mean, it's about as well as you could. Now, optimally, they would, if this is me inside the city, I would have gave up the walls. I would go stand in the alleyways and crimped and pinch pointed enemies, false gaps and stuff like that. There's all kinds of things they could have done, like if they were very advanced. But all things considered, this is not just an improvement, it's a dramatic improvement in the AI. That was outstanding. They basically forced us to kill their whole army before we got into the city. And if we couldn't have reached them, say this was a city with higher walls, that would have been hell. Be that as it may, I knew the walls would favor us, and so it was hell for the enemy instead. I mean, this wasn't just a victory, this was a pulverizing. 81 losses here. So a 10-to-1 kill ratio, despite the fact we're outnumbered 2-to-1, and they're in a city. They got obliterated. Look at Byron Blood Axe. Okay, so he doesn't have any siege allocation points. In other words, he's not designed to be on a catapult, so to speak. He's not benefiting very much. But Borard, Bitterdraught, and the other gal, we're going to make player clan leaders out of them, and I think they're going to be very well prepared for it. I mean, they have their specs and their sort of training is going to make them pretty good player clan leaders here. Not too far into this campaign, right? Once we get maybe level 25, give or take, for those companions, it'll be time to give them some treats, give them some rewards for their, I'd like to reward you for your hard work. And they're going to make at least solid player clans. Now, when we get to that stage, I'll talk all about managing influence, managing your player clans. Of course, we're doing a lot of that stuff in the Vlandian campaign. We've done other demonstrations and guides on the channel. But not every episode is seen by every person that comes by the channel. There are new people showing up all the time. And it's one of the most difficult, convoluted parts of Bannerlord. They give us virtually no tutorial or explanation about what you're supposed to do. I think that's a consequence of the game being so big and complicated. Imagine the tutorial they would have to write. It would have to be 10 hours of reading, or you'd have to watch 10 hours of Bannerlord on YouTube just to understand how to get good and to have a good understanding and strategy in the mid to late game, right? It would be very difficult. And so I think there is an argument for just learning organically too, right? You're going to make mistakes. Obviously, I've done a lot of organic learning as well. I say it all the time, but hopefully my pound of mistakes leads to an ounce of wisdom for you guys. Take a breath here. In fact, while we situate some troops, dump some of these extra prisoners, get a little caffeine. All right, our cast situation is actually starting to become easy going. 279 plus whatever we get here. I know it's tedious. Some guys just hit the arrow, but at some point or other in this episode or next episode, I'm going to go through our companions and make sure they're wearing high-end gear. I'm aware there are mods for that. We don't have any mods, right? We're playing 1.3 and the modders are probably furious at work, studiously at work trying to update the game. All right, so 353 troops. What now, right? We don't have a huge army. It's very dangerous, at this stage to think you can just roll over to Seinan or something like that and siege it. We've got, a few other castles we can take here. Pendraic. We've got some more villages we can raid. And again, we're consolidating our gains, even though I'm telling you to do all these things for efficiency and then carelessly suffering deserters. Dipshit sometimes. Got our companion armies with us. I'll talk more about wounded troops at some point or other. It's definitely advantageous to stick a bunch of wounded troops with your what do they call, party, with your party leaders. That way they get medicine skill and stuff like that. quests. I don't know that we have enough troops for quests at this stage. Now, we continue to monitor the loyalty here. The loyalty 45, that's good. It's actually going up still. Revel was the problem. And the loyalty there is moving too slow. Revel might rebel any single day, right? There might be a rebellion at Rebellion. We're going to need to boost their policies, or boost their loyalty even more through policies. So there's a couple in here. This one's good, Tribunes of the People, +1 per day. Each time we do these policies, it has a negative effect, right? We're making a little bit less money, but what did I just say, right? We have 331,000 gold now. We're going to be able to sell loot. At this stage, every city we go to probably will be able to empty their whole register, right? It's like a robbery, only we give them stuff. It'd be like having all your Goodwill stuff, all your secondhand stuff, and going into a store like Fred Meyer or a department store, putting it all on the ground and saying, yeah, this stuff's worth a lot of stuff, so just give me all the money you have, right? That's basically how trade is in Bannerlord. We've got this little tiny pathetic army. I wonder if we can run them down. 3.0, we're 3.0. I'd like to run down these little scuzzy armies because they'll raid villages and shit like that. Of course, they might combine with a larger army and kill us. We should be able to close on them. We'll get some apples here for the men. I've stopped looking at some of these events, and I think I've made my opinion pretty clear on those. Great concept. It needs more refining in the execution. This guy, you're captured. I'm not making it that far away. Yeah, that's right. Run to the worst spot for you possible, right into the trees. Come with us, Finnegan. Who am I? I'm your overlord. Come with us. All right, so another battle. I think we'll fight this battle, right? 260 troops. This early stage here, I am going to acquiesce to the guys who say they want to see most of the significant action. Then again, I may just edit this, right? It kind of depends on the flow of things. And speaking of the flow of things, for all the beauty in the game, it looks like we've had an antifreeze. There was a truck, a covered wagon delivering antifreeze, and it looks like it spilled all over the hills here. There's a blue tinge. I think you guys can see that. I don't know if that's... I mean, I'm sure it's an error, but I don't know if you guys can see that on your end. All the hills here are sort of traced in a blue. It's pretty. Slightly immersion breaking, I'll say. So still some bugs to work out. I think I've seen stuff like this in the past, and of course graphic errors are fairly common with such a complicated, beautiful game. Speaking of beauty, right, the sun passes from clouds to open spot, and you get these beautiful open areas where there's no clouds, and they move. I mean, the young me would have absolutely creamed himself seeing these kind of graphics. When I was 23 and I was playing like Heroes of Might and Magic 3, where it was like the resolution was like 20 by 12. Your character was a pixel, like 1 pixel. Eventually they got it up to 3 so they could, a different colored pixel was his head. These graphics these days are just unbelievable. They're approaching photorealistic, right? It basically looks like I'm on a hill in the year 1100 looking out over an antifreeze flooded valley, and for sure lots of dead animals as soon as they drink it. But it really is spectacular. It sort of turns into a haze at the far margin of the screen there. The clouds look dynamic, but that's the next step, right? Make the weather change. Make it all of a sudden thunder start ripping in the middle of this battle. That'll be fantastic. Whether a modder does that or whether Tailworlds does that, that'll be like the last step, right? And I guess your character could all of a sudden start shivering here as these little pathetic cavalry try to cut me down. Now, we're fighting this battle because I want the upgrades. We've got a bunch of low-level troops. I don't want to suffer 150 or 200 losses here with the auto-resolve. I've done plenty of testing before. Generally in a battle like this where the power bar is kind of close, what that tells you is the enemy has high-end troops. These are Banner Knights and Vanguard and stuff like that. If you auto-resolve against this, you suffer huge losses. Maybe 200. I can't afford it. Right? So this is the kind of battle that even if I don't share this with you fellas, just know that battles like this I'm probably fighting in the background, because in this early critical stage of Bannerlord where you get captured all of a sudden or you lose a battle because you didn't do this, right? There are consequences. You lose your whole army in Bannerlord and it's a very bad situation. Now, we had that happen, what, in the mercenary stage in this campaign, but we have not had it happen in a long time. And of course, you benefit enormously from that. Bannerlord is very much a zero-sum game. There's a winner and a loser, and nothing in between. And the winner gets everything. Now, the enemy's foolish enough to set up at a low point on the map, right? Even if it's slightly lower, you want to take advantage of it. Here, they're significantly lower on the battlefield. Hence, their archers can't really hit us. So we're just going to pound them at range from uphill, liquidate them as they get closer. Although I've got to watch out for archers. Man, it is incredible. And javelin guys, 73 damage, that guy. I mean, I'm sure that would do that in real life, too. You get hit with a javelin thrown with skill by a warrior, hits you in your chest. Probably go through you. But man, the range damage, that continues to be a very overt, obvious, profound difference between the previous Bannerlord and 1.3. These ranged units are highly accurate. Carry a shield is all I'm going to say. It might detract from the two-handed model. A lot of guys run, 2-3 stacks of javelins, or maybe a bow and arrow and a pole arm. You might get killed a lot more with the accuracy of ranged weapons. It's highly noticeable. It's not just noticeable, it's profound. All right, we kite with their skirmishers here while the enemy runs right into the death maw. They're getting pounded by every direction, and the enemy dies. Now, lots of EXP here because almost all of our units are participating, and I kept these little peasants for the last charge here, right? I'm kind of waiting for the enemy to be occupied. Right about here, right? We've got a whole glob of their troops. I'm protecting them with a wave of cavalry, just pushing the cavalry in front of them so they have a little bit of protection. And now that little pathetic division of volunteers that were farmers last week, they get told to charge. Some of them will die because they have no armor. But a lot of those guys are going to upgrade, right? And just like that previous instance, if we get 30 or 40 or 50 upgrades here with very few deaths, then it's well worth it, right? All these guys are tearing in here. I'll tear your limbs, right? All these guys are cocky now. All of a sudden, they were getting their villages raided by Battanians or Valandians, and now I'll tear your limbs. These guys are suddenly fucking heroic. And 27 upgrades is a lot less than I thought we would get. Part of the reason that's happening, of course, is that we have a lot of high-level units at this stage that are doing damage. Your little guy with a hatchet can't get any kills when the Fiend champs are just putting everything on their back. So there are ways to go around that. We'll talk about that at some point or other in this campaign. Maybe we'll have a couple episodes where it's purely farming, or at least not a couple episodes, you guys will be bored out of your head, but maybe we'll have a couple battles, right? Where you get a force, the perfect scenario for it is where you have 500 sturgeons or 500 Battanians sieging a city, and you have 700 or 800 your army, and you can just take your time with them like a sadistic murderer, make sure every single villager gets in there and slashes some guy with a hatchet or throws a rock at him or whatever it might be. There are instances where, if you use your head, you understand the system, you can gain XP. Maybe it's not realistic, but it's there, and I want to show it to you fellas in case you want to use it. Okay, our troop situation is becoming really good. We're starting to stuff garrisons now, and it's been a slow and steady progress. That's really the easiest way to play Bannerlord. If you get stretched too thin, if your garrisons start to get really thin, or you try to put too many troops in the garrison and you run around with a small army, you get captured. So there's a very much fine balance here, but we're making money now hand over fist. So we're recruiting every single troop we can find. I remember that stage not too long ago where I was basically, if there were mercenaries in a town and they wanted 7,000 for some heavy cavalry, I was like, I can't afford it. I felt like a starving artist. Now we're starting to move from the outhouse to the penthouse. 334,000 and rising. Once you start making money daily, it's all over, right? Because we're going to get loot, we're going to win battles, and it's just going to start to snowball from there. Bannerlord, no question, has a snowball effect. And let me give you a real-life example of what should happen or what could happen in Bannerlord from a real-life example. Basically, again, you guys probably get sick of me referencing it, but it's relevant. The Napoleonic period. From about 1800, you could say 1798 or something like that, to about 1809. Napoleon basically owned Europe. He just destroyed everybody. He beat the Russians. He beat the Spanish. He beat he beat everybody. He beat the Austrians. He lost a few battles, I'll grant you that. Aspern. There weren't very many, though, and he basically owned Europe, right? He had favorable treaties with everybody. The only kingdom that he couldn't really come to grips with was England, and of course they ended up being a big part of his demise. As Battanians come in here, they look like they might engage. There's probably 800 here, 800. We welcome it. Now, what happened in the Napoleonic campaign that should happen in Bannerlord, if they could program it, is late in the campaign. If you start to just roll over people, 2 or 3 kingdoms should just enter a death fight with you, declare, a coalition and say, you must pull back or whatever. Basically, go to war with you and stay allied, because that's the only way you could really lose or be challenged in a campaign at that stage. Now, we could lose this battle, right? We're outnumbered 2-1, but you guys have been watching. You think that's likely? We've got our Fian, we've got our skirmisher divisions, we've got some tactics, there's even some landscape, even on a battlefield like this, which on the surface, if you just sort of glance at it, it's easy to just cast this off as a type of terrain where there's no advantages. But there's all kinds of little ridges and hills. Once you understand tactics to a high level, you will start to see tactical opportunities everywhere. It'll just be a routine thing for you to see a battlefield like this and assess 3 or 4 immediate things that you can use for your army within seconds, right? You guys will all become intuitive like that, I think. I mean, I get into trouble sometimes in my life, in my world, because I assume other people think like me. Sometimes I see people doing stuff and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm completely confused. And it's because people do see the world differently. Not everybody sees the world in the same way. Quite literally, there are colorblind people and stuff like that. And what a shame, because they can't see this unbelievably beautiful scene. You got to give it to Tail Worlds on the visuals. It's a 12 out of 10. I've said that before. It's absolutely amazing. I don't really want to have a battle. I just want to have a nice picnic here. Maybe we could invite these Battanians over. They can bring, it's a potluck. They can bring some of their roasted pork and some stuff like that. Getting hungry just thinking about it. And you know what? I don't like the feel of this. We're tucked in behind there. I've got a ridge behind me. That's going to make it hard for our archers to set up. So we're going to change positions here. I'm changing on the fly while I think of roasted pork. We're going to set up cav lines here defensively so that any enemy forces that are pursuing as we pull back we've got our rear guard established. That was a thing with large armies, and of course you want to do that in Bannerlord. Cavalry and a shield wall are amazingly tough units. You don't want to leave them there for 10 minutes because they'll get surrounded. But for 30 seconds, they're just like iron. It's just a wall of iron. Now, this lower area here, I like it for multiple reasons. First, the enemy's got limited line of sight from the direction they're coming from. So it's not a true reverse slope decline, but it's going to function similarly. Second, we've got miles behind us to kite in all directions and still have line of sight right where these cavalry are running. That's where I'm hoping to draw the main enemy force. And frankly, we'll manipulate that, right? Guys sometimes say the enemy's running right down the middle, right into the trap. It doesn't actually matter where they come. We'll simply shuffle our troops to handle it. The only thing the AI could do, and it would be very difficult to design AI, is break into 3, 4, 5 different infantry groups and focus on one wing at a time. I mean, we're talking the kind of stuff that generals would have to do, Frederick the Great. I don't think they're going to be able to write AI code for stuff like that. Now, once we get generative AI, it's all over, right? We're going to just get completely emasculated. We'll all be just giant fat blobs because computers do everything for us, and we'll think we have improved things. All right, they're beautifully coming in here in a very thick shield wall. We're kind of menacing and skirmishing with their cavalry on the edges. You see a cavalry charge there. Again, the guys ran the opposite way. Sometimes I'll just tell them, get over here and make them follow me. The cavalry charge really still is something that I think most people think should be adjusted. They don't all just do their own thing. In real life, a cavalry charge was coordinated, right? The guys would, I don't know how far they would ride. Of course, I didn't ride back then, and I don't know that much about military history. But a big part of the cavalry charge was psychological. You have 600, 700, or even thousands of cavalry charging your position. It ruins your morale. Guys rout. Guys get out of there, right? It's the Braveheart scene, only without spikes, right? Imagine 1,000 cavalry charging and you're holding a musket. It's not a comforting feeling. Now, I've kind of botched that one unit. They're getting tangled up. It happens, right? I was trying to kite give my analogy, and I've made a little bit of a mistake, but you can see the death spam is, and we have like 70 Fiends now in the 7th division. That is becoming a doom squad. I can bring the 8th Corps over here and we can flank beautifully on the enemy. That's the thing. Even though they destroyed a large part of that 6th division, the rest of our troops are fine. I have our 1st division. They're kited back. Oh, actually, shit, it was the 1st division. I just realized. I thought it was the 6th. And that actually makes sense. So our 6th is fine. I charged at the 1st, so they just came up and got destroyed. So never mind. We didn't make a mistake. Not that any of that matters. Nobody's keeping score like Rain Man. Episode 12. Tactical Enlightenment. Huge tactical mistake. Nobody's... And this Battanian force did walk right into it. Now, they do have a lot of infantry here, and maybe the 6th will get destroyed. They are definitely fighting tooth and nail, and they have a lot of infantry here, but we do have them in a bind. The archers on our right flank are decimating everything. I hear guys starting to rout. Now, we'll see what else they have, right? 900, wasn't it 900 something Battanians? I'm not paying that close attention. I probably should. We'll get captured eventually here because I'm not taking things serious. Yeah, here comes the next wave, but I don't know if you saw it. There was no gleaming armor. It was a whole bunch of guys that looked like they came out of a YMCA. They got their workout clothes on. There's a few shields at least. They've got some crossbow. It really does look like that crossbow charged. Maybe they're just trying to get line of sight. I'll take a horse here and figure out what we got going on. Okay, they're setting up. They want to fight here. So we've got, more of this battle, but they're panicking. They're running around. The AI does a lot of this. Vacillation is the bad word for it. Indecisiveness is another word for it. They kind of run back and forth. They really do look like their archers are charging up as fast as they can with their swords out. I'm not sure why they would do that. They don't even have a shield. So, I don't know. Maybe they're just like they rage quit. It's a player on the other side. Rage quit. F1, hold fire. Just F1, F3, everybody charge. Fuck it. Let's try. It's a Japanese kamikaze charge. Well, we got reserve divisions, right? Even though they killed a lot of our initial troops here, pretty bloody battle for us. We got more. I feel like Longshanks. Send in the reserves. Send us news of our victory. Attack. And the enemies, I was going to say routes. They want to rout. They're thinking about routing, that's for sure. Man, we'll encourage them here. Another consequence of the lack of RTS is I either do a huge amount of editing, which is uncomfortable for me because, of course, I don't want these episodes to take me 5 days to make, or I kind of subject you guys to running down the enemy forces like this. I don't know why they don't rout in this situation. The enemy's obviously 99% routing. I guess there's like 3 stubborn troops or something, cavalrymen probably. There's maybe a lord that's running around, but obviously the rest of their forces are running as fast as they can. They look like those nutheads in Costco trying to get the toilet paper where they were running. They would line up 4 hours in advance. They already have a car full of toilet paper, but they were desperate to get more toilet paper because there's a pandemic. People are so illogical. And I guess that's a good example of what I meant earlier, how I don't really think like other people. Immediately when the pandemic happened, I just went out and got a bunch of dried food. We've got a pond in our backyard with like 2,000 gallons of water. I knew between the two of those, we were good, right? I'm not worried about toilet paper. Like, you could figure that shit out. Not to mention we had like 3 or 4 months worth of toilet paper. It's just not, it's not a thing. I don't know. Maybe nobody else runs around with extra toilet paper. Do they buy one roll at a time or something? I think mostly it's people being illogical. All right, now we're going to beat a few of these guys here with the hammer because they will not rout. Just going to smash some of these guys here for fun at the end of this episode. And even if we get killed here, it's fine because at least we can just fast forward this. This is painful. This is, you could argue this is as important as changes that the game, they need to make to the mechanics. Fix this, Tailworlds. Make it so we can end a battle where the enemy's obviously the battle is over. Don't make us grind through, especially as poor content makers. Don't make us grind through and come up with psychological debates on why we hoard toilet paper. Let's just skip that last 60 seconds. And this is starting to happen more and more, and this is glorious, right? We were already hitting our stride with troops. We're starting to hit our stride with money. Of course, I still have my prison fetish down there. I need to get like a card for it. I'm part of the official prison fetish club. But we're starting to drown in troops here. And of course, I'm facetious. We're starting to get into a very comfortable situation with troops. And it's sort of the sky's the limit in this campaign. 45 minutes. But it's going to be the next episode because we're going to continue to break these episodes up. So please hit that like button if you enjoyed what you saw today. There will be more, friends. You want to subscribe if you want to see more. We're going to continue this Battanian campaign, exploring version 1.3. But that'll be next time. Thanks for watching, friends.